Joining me now to discuss more on our nation's progress in the battle against COVID is former acting director for the CDC and former ABC News chief health and medical director, Dr. Richard Besser. Dr. Besser, thank you so much for joining us on this Friday. Let's start with vaccine shortages. They continue to be a big problem. Right now, only about 8% of the population is vaccinated. And as you know, that is a long shot from herd immunity. When can we expect this backlog to get sorted? And do you fear that making people wait longer will cause some to be completely dissuaded at the idea of getting vaccinated?
You know, Janae, I think one of the big problems here was expectations. You know, I think the idea that there are tens of millions of people in America who've been vaccinated for an infection that was absolutely unknown about 15 months ago is almost miraculous. And the idea that there will be enough for this country by this summer is absolutely terrific. Until then, we all need to wait our time, wait for our groups to be called, so that we can ensure that those who are at the greatest risk, those who are going out every day to get to work, are getting vaccinated. That's critically important.
Yes, it absolutely is. And so there is some positive news this week. COVID cases, deaths, and hospital admissions continue to decline nationally. Of course, that's after the surges that we saw following the holidays. Do you think that this finally means that we're turning a corner and, on a bigger picture, getting a better handle on the pandemic overall?
Well, you know, I'm always really careful to not try and predict the future, because we've been fooled by this virus many, many times. We could see a similar picture here to what was seen in the United Kingdom, where numbers went down and then jumped up as a new strain arrived. But the combination of doing the right thing and getting vaccines rolled out gives me a lot of hope that we will turn the corner and we will see an end of this pandemic.
And Dr. Besser, that's exactly what I want to ask you about next. These variants, we've heard, some experts worrying that the variants could cause a surge in the future, in the coming weeks. Dr. Fauci has said that we should double up with the masks and that overall it seems vaccines do a pretty good job against them. But talk to me more about your concerns with these variants. Do you think that we could be underestimating the threat? And what should we do more of to make sure that we aren't battling a new COVID crisis in just a few months?
You know, what it tells me is that we can't underestimate this virus. And it also tells me that the conversation about controlling COVID can't be limited to how do we protect people within our borders by vaccinating people here. We have to be part of the global movement to vaccinate the world. And I'm really thrilled to see that the U.S. has rejoined the World Health Organization. The U.S. has rejoined the wealthier nations that are working to provide vaccines around the globe.
And Dr. Besser, do you think that here in the U.S. we should be doing more testing to look for variants? And I mean, even exploring the idea of more variants within the U.S.?
Definitely. You know, and this is something that the CDC is ramping up. You know, looking at different parts of the country and selecting a proportion of all of those viral strains and looking at the genetics of those to see, is it the same strain that's been around, or is it one of the new variants that's been seen elsewhere, or is it a variant that is emerging here in the United States? It's part of staying on top of this. And it's critically important we reach communities that are being affected the hardest, get those communities where we're seeing the greatest toll in terms of hospitalization and death.
And Dr. Besser, in so many communities around the country, the debate over schools reopening continues to be a very contentious one. So explain to us why a teacher who's not vaccinated should feel safe about returning to work, if you think that they should, and what makes returning any safer now than returning back in the fall?
Yeah, so, you know, last year when this virus first hit, the recommendations were that schools should close. There was real concern that this virus would act like the flu virus, where children played a critically important role, big role in terms of amplifying spread in communities. What we've seen here, and there are a number of studies now that have looked at this both around the globe and in the United States, is that if you put in place the measures that have been shown to protect children, staff, and teachers, you can get children into school learning safely. It requires an investment. It means making sure that schools can hire staff to do screening and cleaning. It means making sure that you can decompress your classroom so there aren't as many children in each class, that you can look at your ventilation to make sure the airflow is good, and making sure that everyone is wearing masks. When you do that, in many communities, you find that the rate of infection in the school is much lower than it is in the community. So it's in a sense saying it's one of the safer places to be. teachers should be in one of the primary groups that are being vaccinated. So after you do healthcare workers and people in long-term care facilities, the CDC recommends that people who are in essential jobs, so whether it's working in a supermarket or food production, being a first responder, or being a teacher, they should be in that next group. But what we're seeing is you don't have to wait for vaccination to get children back to school safely if you're investing in those protections in the school.
And that's what a lot of parents like to hear right now, Dr. Besser. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you on.
Thanks so much. Really nice talking with you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.